When my two daughters, Katie and Sarah, were very young, they used to love, just like you're doing, Hannah, to sit really close to my mom and dad and snuggle right in there, and then they would run their hands over the top of mom and dad's hands because they loved to feel all that loose skin. And they loved to just stare at all the wrinkles and great big blue veins. It was a delight to watch them. That image of them reminds me of a story I heard not so long ago. It was about a grandson who asked his grandma why she had so many wrinkles on her hand. "I'm old," she told him. "Well," he replied, "do you know what happens when you get old, Gran? Because I know what happens. You die, and they bury you in the ground. But do not worry, Gran, because God comes and unburies you." Well, what more is there than that? He's just told the Easter story. It's that simple. We get buried by the circumstances of life, and God unburies us. Over and over, God comes to the tombs of our lives and unburies us. That's Easter. That is the power and love of God. It is as true and as simple as that. That truth speaks louder than the reality of our burials. There are so many ways in which our lives get buried. Sorrow and grief, death and loss, fear and anxiety, perfectionism, anger, guilt, regret, resentment, self-doubt, the things we have done and the things we have left undone. These are the stones that block our way. These stones mark the many ways in which we have suffered death, whether physically, emotionally, or spiritually. With each stone we ask, who will roll away the stone? Who will do for me what I cannot do for myself? That's what the three women are asking as they walk to the tomb. It's not really a question as much as it is a statement about their lives and what they expect. Their lives have been buried in loss, pain, and death. And they expect it to stay that way. They expect the stone of death too big, too heavy, too real for them to do anything about. I wonder how often we live not only expecting to get buried, but expecting to stay buried. We too quickly forget that for every burial, there is an Easter morning. That's what the women discovered. As soon as they looked up, the stone of death, well, the stone that had blocked their way had already been rolled back. That's why we show up today, Easter Sunday, year after year. We want to know that the stones of our tombs have been rolled back. We want to hear the story again and be reminded that the tomb is open and empty. We want to know for ourselves, excuse me, we want to know for ourselves that we are unburied. We want to hear one more time, Christ is risen. God unburies you, he told his grandmother. The young man in the tomb told the women, "He has been raised. He is not here." The church proclaims, "Christ is risen." However it is said, it is the good news we want and need to hear. These are sacred words, words of hope, life, and resurrection. Everything has changed. We are a new people. Roll the stones that have blocked your way. Recall the stones that have blocked your way. Christ is risen, and they are removed. Name your loved one who has died. Christ is risen, and they are unburied. Come into God's presence. Christ is risen, and you are loved. Removed, unburied, and loved. These are God's Easter words to us, not just today, but every day. God has been enacting words of hope and love to God's people from the very beginning. It happened when we were created in God's image and likeness. God's Easter words parted the Red Sea and drew the Israelites into a new land and a new life. Those same words transplanted in humanity a new heart, a new spirit, and made us God's people. Ezekiel stood in the valley of dry bones, watching God open graves and breathe life into dead skeletons. It never ends. Today, Christ offers you and I an unburied life. One day we look up and see that the stone of death has already been rolled away. Christ is risen. The unburied life comes to us in 1,000 different ways. We overcome bitterness and anger, reconciling with another person. That is life unburied. We feel the presence of a loved one who has died, but we weren't even thinking about him or her. That is life unburied. We look at the world and weep with compassion for its pain. That is life unburied. We respond to another's harsh words or actions with forgiveness rather than our own harsh words or actions. That is life unburied. We love without fear, holding nothing back in reserve, offering all that we are and all that we have. That is life unburied. We feel a sense of Jesus' presence, a reality and connection that move beyond beliefs. That is life unburied. Life unburied presents itself as a new creation. So it is that the women on today's gospel go to the tomb on the first day of the week, the day creation began. Everything is being made new. The sun has risen. It is the dawn of a new day, declaring that Jesus has risen. If Christ is risen, then so are we. This new day is also our day, the day of the holy and unburied people of God. All thanks be to God. Amen.